I mean, first of all, I think it took me 30, 40 years to be able to put words to the things all of us felt, or at least I felt. I can't speak for Mehrdad and Hussein. While we were with Hussein, we wouldn't think this way. You know, we would just say, I'm going to his house, and you wouldn't talk about like, I love him. It doesn't work that way. Especially from our culture that happens to be so profoundly reserved in some things. Every time we went to gatherings, I mean, not Hussein's gatherings, but family gatherings or so, we would always look at Hussein's cup, tea. The moment it was empty, Hussein and I would compete. Who's going to go to the kitchen, grab another cup of tea and give it to him. And he usually would win because he was much more attentive to these things than I. We would never use the language of Hussein as an object of worship. There is this poem by Baba Tahir, تو که نوشم نئی نیشم چرایی تو که یارم نئی پیشم چرایی تو که مرهم نئی زخم دل ما نمک پاش دل ریشم چرایی. Or something even, I think, simpler would be Hafiz, that Hussein looks at me and my pain increases. I look at Hussein, my desire for him increases. And it's a funny thing that, in essence, it's the same thing, because both Baba Tahir and myself, we are talking about a man or someone you're working with, and he becomes a symbol of worship. His house becomes the church. His body is something. And we've talked about this, that one day he's coming to sit and he's wearing his pajamas, and there is a big hole right in the middle of his jammies, and this is Hussein. You desire all of him, not just part of him. I don't care about just his intellect. I want his soul, I want his body. That's how it's a very strange place to be. But you don't have the language because you don't think about this stuff. You just are a container of feelings, and your feelings are erupting, and you go through mood swings like 50 times a day. You look at all these books and you say they have nothing to offer. You go to school and you go to your meetings and you say, well, these people really don't have anything to offer. In desperation, you go to YouTube in hopes of finding someone who can say something that's interesting, and it's just bumper sticker. And you say, man, how could I have been so stupid? I was this man for 10 years. It's not a woman having a male teacher and being in love with a male teacher. This is a man falling in love with a man teacher. To the point where he allows this teacher to kind of create and recreate one's interior. And then you sit back and you realize, I want to be inspired by something out there. There is nothing. And so you sit back and you say, those 10 years were really, really good. Now I'm able to put language to those experiences. You wouldn't want to read the Quran, but you would enjoy very much listening to the commentaries on Quran coming from Hussein's mouth. You go to someone's house, that part in Kierkegaard's book that he has, Fear and Trembling. You sit in your car and you say, okay, maybe I should go in now. But you don't know how to go inside the house. Do I put my right foot first or left foot first? Do I shake his hand? Do I give him a kiss on the cheek? Because it was, during those decades, it was really just difficult to just look at him. And he may have just been an ordinary human being, but the way I looked at him, and the way Mehrdad and the way Hussein looked at him, our perspective and our vision of him made him something more than human, and that was enough, that was sufficient. I don't care if Hussein was the devil, but he made me interested in philosophy. you know. And yes, through him I went through lots of ups and downs, but eventually I got a job. And you met me, and then you met Hussein, right? And even if Hussein was an awful human being, you are now a professor, and you're making your living playing with ideas in the classroom. And that's true for her, and that's true for her, and that's true for her, and eventually for her. Because I saw a man being more than a man. But it took almost 3-4 decades for me to go back in time and appreciate everything. You know, Yusuf, he is tough. Every single night there is like a screaming match. He tells me I'm stupid, I tell him he's stupid. I mean, not really, but I mean, it's a fight, you know, to get him to do anything, to pick up his shoes even. And then every time this happens, which is every night, from like 4 in the afternoon all the way to the time he goes to bed. And these 4 hours always reminds me of what I put my parents through. And now I'm able to appreciate how patient they were, how forgiving they were, how kind and generous they were. And when I become aware of those things, and thankfully they're still alive and healthy, whenever they call me asking me for anything, it doesn't matter what it is, I jump, get in my car, and I drive. And I don't care if they want to come with me. But it really does take a long time to, at least it did for me. And I think I can, I'm also physically in a position where I can say that. You know, Mehrdad, he worked for the state. He's like depressed. He has 4 kids, they're depressed. Because the ideas and his lifestyle, they don't mesh well. The other Hussein, he was in a coma, blind. He can't do anything, nothing. You know, Mehrdad can't say, I'm really happy about my life. And I'm not saying everything about my life is good, but I'm in the classroom, I write. And once in a while, I'm lucky enough to have students who become interested, so much so that they go and get the degrees and they play with ideas in their own way, their own unique capacities. And, you know, not only are they interested in these things, but they also make a living. That's a wonderful place to be. And it's all because of Hussein.